Are you all there?
How you doing, guys?
How are
Friends,
you?
peoples.
Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears.
And your eyes while you're at it.
Yeah.
Give me some eyes, some ears,
Yeah.
2 knees,
Yeah.
a chin. That's an Office reference.
Inside joke. Describing the Loch Ness Monster. How are you seriously, guys? How you doing out there?
Someone write something to us so we know.
Yeah, I see 20 people there, but they're like, I don't know.
They're like, I'm not sure how I
don't
feel.
think I should touch the keys.
They're awful.
Diana, how are you? You're awful.
Yeah,
Yep.
I hear that.
Denise, Tricia, yes. Elizabeth, Ellen. Hi, guys. River, we can still gather. Isn't that the best?
Oh, so nice.
Oh, we can
Hi,
still
everybody.
be together. It's so good to see your
coming.
names, your faces popping up. And Corinne is here from Lillehammer again.
And Corinne always joins
We
us.
can always be here together. Emily,
Yeah.
Elizabeth, so wonderful to see you.
Thanks
Wow.
for coming. Thanks for showing up. We all need it. I think we need the circle.
Yeah, we sure do. Boy, oh boy. If we ever needed a gathering room in the history of our lives, this is the time, right?
Yeah. This is the room.
Woo! Here we are. In the midst of it, babes.
In the very midst of
My
it all.
very whole life, I have been obsessed with social change. And it's like, oh, here we go. Here we go.
It's on.
It's on.
Shall I absent myself for a while?
I guess so, yeah.
Pop your questions for Martha. We all know what the topic is, though that's the topic that we'll answer your questions on.
Sending so much love. Okay, so how to get through that damn day these days, you guys. I'm not kidding. It's not easy out there. And the good news, it's not great news. The bad news is all the news, okay? So if you're watching the news, that's the bad news. The good news is that if you understand how to deal with turbulence, like you're a pilot, an airplane pilot who learns to fly in turbulence, you don't need to be nearly as afraid or upset as most of us probably are. I remember going flying with one person in a little tiny plane. He was piloting the plane. It was like a little tin can. The doors barely shut. And we hit all this turbulence, and the thing was dropping and twisting and turning. And I just about died from fright right there. But this was a guy who knew how to fly in turbulence. And he said, watch, this is going to be okay. And he started dealing with the plane. And at one point, he turned off the engines. And I just thought, goodbye, cruel world. And we dropped down out of this zone of turbulence and into some still air. And he knew how to do that because he'd done it before. Well, our culture doesn't teach us how to deal with massive, massive turbulent changes like the one we're facing right now. I remember even as a kid, and even recently writing a book that's based on Dante, being obsessed with the plagues that went through Europe, with that kind of fascinated staring you do at an accident, sort of a rubbernecking thing. And I remember reading books about it and going, how would I get through that? How would I have gotten through that? And reading things that wise people said in those times when they actually did get through it. And what I've learned from that is that the way to get through that damn day these days is to use your ability to handle turbulence. I was looking today at a model of the grieving process from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, you know, the famous grieving process: denial, anger, depression, bargaining, and acceptance. What this model had that I hadn't seen before was it showed how our moods move. So denial, starting on one side of something, actually shoots us into high activity. Then anger can start to get at a high point, and then depression will set in and just bottom out, like the mood plunges. And then bargaining brings us back out, and acceptance can actually take us to a place, once we've finished this whole thing many times, that is higher than the place we started before. I was really interested by this, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go back to the ABCs of this. I'm going to look at the stages of grief, because we're all in them, like we're in this turbulent air. We're being dashed around every which way. All our prayers go out to you, by the way. If you've been ill, or you're afraid to get ill, or if somebody you love is ill, or if, God forbid, you've lost someone, I am going to insert in here. I have read the research on tons of prayer for the sick studies. They've done lots and lots of studies on taking two groups of people who've been through the same operation, say, the same surgery, and randomly sorting them into two groups. One group gets prayed for by people who don't even know them, and they don't know they're being prayed for, and the other group doesn't. And in many, many, many of these studies, it turns out that the people being prayed for heal faster, have fewer complications, and leave the hospital faster than the others. And scientists have been scoffing at this and saying it's stupid, it's made up, it's biased for a long time, and they've tried really hard to debunk these studies. And I read one joyful paper where they'd finally managed to debunk the myth that prayer can help the sick. And the way they debunked it was by finding a bunch of people to do the praying who were scientists who believed that prayer did not work. And as long as that condition was met, prayer didn't work. So they said, there it is, it doesn't work. Oh, sorry. I don't know, you guys. It can't hurt, right? And I have to tell you, the number of studies that preponderantly show that there is a side effect doesn't mean we're going to be able to pray this pandemic away. But I just want you to know I'm praying for you, because why not? It may really work and it's not going to hurt. So all of that to frame up what we're going through right now, all of us. I did it all last night. Denial, okay? Denial is not just a place where we feel like, oh, everything's going to be fine. One of the weird reactions people can have in a state of denial is elation, like becoming abnormally cheerful. And there's this kind of like, this is going to be great. And it's almost a manic state. Then you might go into avoidance of information that says things are rough, and they may get rougher. And I don't like those news reports either. As somebody trained in sociology, I know what those growth curves look like. I know what they do. And I know that, to quote Barbara Ehrenreich, statistics are people with the tears washed off. So I'm scared. I would love to avoid the information, but a lot of it's good, and a lot of it's we need to be able to access it. Somebody's just asked, why am I talking about grief at a time like this? And here's why. Because we don't know what's going to happen, but we all know that we have lost things. We've lost so much in the last 24, 48 hours. Look back at last week's gathering room, the one before. It was a different world. In 2 weeks, we've lost what feels like our freedom. We've lost so much normalcy. Like, every institution is being impacted and will continue to be impacted. And going forward, we really don't know what normal will look like. It's going to be different. I'll tell you that. It can be better in the end, but the death and rebirth is a traumatic experience. And when you're going through a death rebirth period, and this is not even crested, right? Next week, we'll be facing even more daunting numbers. We have to deal with that circumstance by allowing ourselves to feel the feelings connected with the loss of everything we expected. You know, people are everything. I mean, it's huge. Never before in the history of humanity have so many people lost the same things at the same time. Huge things. So knowing how to navigate turbulent air is knowing how to navigate this unprecedented crisis, which is knowing how to navigate the grief process. So the first one is denial. I bet we're all out of it now. But it includes things like shock, disbelief, avoiding information, and that weird elation I was talking to you about. So there's a crest in energy. And then your energy will start to get low. And believe me, there's something called denial with a little d, where you just say, I know it's happening. I need to pretend it's not happening so that I can sleep through the night. So we'll all go through in and out of denial many times as we go through the next weeks and months. So the energy drops off. And as it does, a lot of us go into anger. Not everybody, but some people go straight into anger, which is irritability, frustration. You may find yourself really feeling raw and shredded and snapping at people. That's a really good time to go by yourself, cocoon, and let yourself slide into the next phase, which is sadness, sometimes despair. This is where your energy is going to be lowest. You may feel overwhelmed. You may feel helpless. You may feel fight or flighty, like you want to run away, or you want to attack the problem, or you want to just hold still, because freeze is another thing that you can do in response to a threat. So this is the place where I've seen animals who felt like their lives were threatened, and they just go limp. And it's a defense mechanism at the very last moment of a crisis, because there are times when things are so chaotic that just to go completely limp and relax into the situation, like a car accident, sometimes people who are drunk survive them because they're so relaxed and limp. That depression is trying to help you stay limp during a crisis. And as you gain energy from the rest of that, the rest you'll get doing that. I once had a client say, I'm so deep rest. And he was saying depressed, but what I heard was deep rest. So you'll go into times when you need deep rest. And then you'll come up and you'll think, okay, wait, maybe there's a way to find meaning in this. Maybe there's a way to go forward. Maybe I can reach out to others. Maybe I can tell my story. And this is where you start to, they call it bargaining, but you start to make meaning out of what's happening to you. Guys, every time you go through a depression, relax, but look for the moment that your mind says, I could make, you know why this might be all right? And weird ideas will come into your mind, but your mind is starting to search for new ways to make meaning out of an unprecedented situation. And then as it does that, you start to find ways to say, okay, here's how I'm going to use this experience to become a better, stronger, more agile version of myself. It's how you just drop into the air and you trust the air under your wings, and you know it's going to keep you flying. And so that process, what I'm saying is we're going through all of those things repeatedly. Huge denial, crests of energy, anger, despair, then finding meaning, and then into acceptance, and then back to denial, and back, and it's just boom, boom, boom like this. And if you know that that's what's coming, you can give yourself the appropriate care at each moment of the turbulence. So when you're in denial, you need information and communication with others. Okay, like, all right, let's buckle down and see this. When you're in anger and depression, you need emotional support. So with the people who are quarantined with you or whatever, learn that when somebody bursts into tears or snaps at you, the most productive response, if you can possibly muster it, is to say, I'm right here. I know what you're feeling. Of course you feel that way. Tell me everything. I'm right here for you. You don't need to fix the problem. You don't need to fix their feelings. You just need to be present. Same thing if you are the one feeling anger or despair or whatever. If you don't have anyone around you to do the talking, call a friend, and do a video call. Connect. But if it's the middle of the night and you don't want to wake anyone up, put yourself in blankets and say, I'm here for you. I'm listening. Of course you feel that way. Remember, we felt this way before. It's not going to last forever. This too shall pass. I did a really powerful, for me, call with the people that were going to go to my African Star Retreat this year. And of course, that's been banned. The travel has been banned. And I asked them to just get in touch with the part of them that's afraid and ask it to step aside for a moment and then access the wisest part of them. So I'd love you to do that now. Access the wisest part of you and write a message from your wisest self, or call it your spirit guide or God or whatever you want to call it. It's fine with me. Write down a message from that wisest self. And ask that self for wisdom over and over and over again. I've written whole journals full of that at other times in my life, and I wrote some more last night. So when you get to the point where you're beginning to find meaning and your strength is bigger and you're saying, I can accept that the world is going this way. okay. At that point, what you need is to access creativity, to make the absolute best out of your situation in this present moment. We've talked about this before, how presence is our only refuge from things we can't control or predict. So by accessing your creativity, you put these questions like, I'm scared. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how I'm going to make a living. I don't know what's going to happen with my relationships. I don't know how my kids are going to fare, all the rest of, or my parents. And you say to the wisest self, give me ideas I've never had before, because this is an experience we've never had before. And it cracks open what we usually think and what we usually do. And it feels horrible. But as Leonard Cohen wrote, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. Let this crack you open. Let the light come in by holding yourself through each stage of the turbulence, and then by opening to new ideas and asking for them. And it's when you've done that, and then you're just taking a shower, that suddenly the new idea comes to you, that suddenly the comfort arrives, that suddenly you know things are going to be okay, whatever it is for you. And we all need those moments, and we all need each other to keep circulating those new ideas. So that's how you get through the damn day. You know it's going to go like this. You know all the parts of it, and you know, love yourself through it and reach out for connection and information when you should, and then expect new ideas to arrive. Helping, saving, loving, building new ideas that are going to see us through this pandemic and into the foreseeable years ahead. So with that, I don't know if anybody has any questions, but I would really like to answer some if I can. It is one of the few things I can do. So
Here I am. I'm back.
the gracious badger herself has returned.
Hi. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Martha can't, without her glasses on, can't read your comments. So even though we appreciate them and we read them afterwards, she can't read them live. So I just wanted to say in advance, on both our behalves, it is so beautiful to see you guys all showing up for each other. Your big bags of love, completely understandable fear, helping each other out, so many ideas, so much wisdom, and I feel very grateful for this group of people right now. And I do have some questions here. There's some really interesting ones. So Anne-Marie was talking about this urge to eat, and someone else was talking about, I've just started drinking. Is that one of the phases?
It absolutely is, actually. It's part of the denial phase. It's a way of saying, maybe this is just hunger. Maybe if I could just blot this out, I won't have to deal with it. And you know what? Forgive yourself. Those are very understandable mechanisms. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you, well, in the future, whenever you have a problem, just, drink a bunch of whiskey. No, but forgive yourself for things like nervous behaviors, like eating, drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes. It's not good for you, but if that's what it takes to get through.
Really try and cut out the fags right now. Just your lungs.
That's what they call cigarettes in Australia, by the way. You should not, it means cigarette, you guys. She did not mean, that did not come out the way it was meant.
Everyone else can say.
There's another thing. Gallows humor is a great way to survive the unsurvivable. So if you can find a way to laugh, please do. So yeah, we all are going to do things like bundle up. The urge for warmth, for shelter, for food, for oblivion, sweet oblivion, for hugs, for shopping. That may be something that is inadvisable too if you've just lost your job. But all these things are about hunter-gatherer responses to an emergency situation. So allow that. Give yourself a hug. Give yourself a free pass and forgive. And then see if you can go on through anger, depression into meaning making.
Awesome. So Diana says, I can't see any positives in this. Can anyone else? And oh no, people are saying whiskey it is. No, stay on the whiskey way. Yeah, can anyone else see any positives? And I wanted to encourage you, Marty, just to talk a little bit about transformation.
So, you guys, from the time I was knee-high to a grasshopper, something in me felt very strongly that I would be part of a time when human beings would see a vast transformation in the way we live on the planet. And I dedicated my whole life to this transformation, which I did not understand. And I didn't know what it was. It just felt like unpredictable change is coming. And so I've been studying it forever. I've been writing books about it forever. And a lot of times people thought, like my last book from a New York publisher, my editor was like, you're a little off here, because what if this transformation you're expecting doesn't happen? I heard the same thing from other sociologists when I was an assistant professor. They're like, because a lot of students would come to me and say, I think there's going to be a big transformation in my lifetime. And I finally brought in another sociologist, and I said, there's a student in my office, I've never met her before, but she's going to say this. She's going to say she thinks she's going to live through a time of great transformation, and she can help. And so we went in. I said, I'm not going to say a word. The student said exactly what I'd expected. And we talked for a while. I sent her away. And the other sociologist turned to me and she said, You've had many encounters like this? And I was like, dozens. And she said, well, it'll be really interesting to track these people and see what happens to them when the transformation doesn't ever come. That was when I realized I joined the opposition, because I was like, I believe these people and I believe my own heart. And, you know, for a while I tried to push it away, but it came back. The first act of transformation is the dissolution of the existing order. When a caterpillar goes into a cocoon, an image I've been using to train coaches for 20 years, the caterpillar does not come out on the other side. A butterfly does, something much more splendid. And when the caterpillar first starts this process, it does not just grow wings, you guys, it dissolves into a liquid. It falls apart, every cell from every other cell. At which point, something in the biology triggers, the chemistry triggers something called an imago cell, which holds the image of how to make a butterfly from the very same molecules that once made up a caterpillar. That's what happens to transform lives. It may have happened to you that everything was shattered. There was nothing positive. When my son was diagnosed with Down syndrome, I could not find anything positive, nothing. And it took me months of turbulence, just staying in denial and anger and depression, before I thought, let's make meaning of this. Maybe this will transform my life. Maybe it will introduce me to ways of thinking and being I've never seen before. Maybe I had been having like psychic experiences when I was pregnant with him. I thought maybe there's more magic in the world than I ever thought. Maybe this is cracking open my mind so that more light comes in. Maybe this is opening me up. And I decided, instead of not believing anything until it was proven true, I would believe everything until it was proven false to my satisfaction. And it blew open my mind, my life, my world. And I can tell you, looking back 32 years, every change Adam brought into my life has been positive, and I could see nothing. This can do the same, you guys. I've been through other crises, even more devastating than that. This can crack us open so the light comes in. And as a people, as a species on this planet, we need a new way of being. We need a new way of being.
Yes, we do.
This is going to change everything, and it will hurt and kill a lot of people, but more people will be transformed than anything else could have ever done. If this will transform more people than anything else could possibly do. It's going to make us rethink our way of being on this planet. It's going to open us to some of the worst things in our nature, but the best as well. And we have the information and technology to gather in groups of hundreds to share the light that comes into each of us. Do you know what that is going to do worldwide? Neither do I. have felt in every cell of my body since I was born that this was going to happen. And I've even thought there's only two ways, war and plague. And they're both, and I have been afraid of them my whole lives.
My whole lives?
My whole lives, yeah. My whole life, because something in me said, yeah, that has to happen. Yeah. So that changes this huge can occur, and this positive. And the reason we can't see them is that it's a whole new way of seeing that we're going to come out with on the other side.
And doesn't it feel better in your body to put this kind of meaning and take this kind of energy from this moment than, you know, just the weight and the despair and the terror?
Yeah.
So we can make that choice, not all the time, not every second, but we can choose to make meaning out of this in a way that brings some relief.
Yeah. So after the denial, after the anger will take you and you will have no good ideas, and the despair will take you and you will have no good ideas. But if you care for yourself, the imago will trigger inside you, and you will begin to recreate your life because it's blasted cell from cell into something with wings, into something so much more beautiful. And with each round of turbulence, you're going to find yourself rising higher and higher, getting more and more inspiration, more creativity. A closed mind doesn't progress. A mind that's been blown open can do anything, you guys, anything. So we're in this together. This is what the gathering room, when we made the gathering room, it was so we could gather with the people who are going to be transformed by whatever happens. I'm going to tell you one more thing, then I go. There's a little woo-woo. When Martha Beck Inc., my little company, when we got our leadership together in California for our planning meeting for 2020.
Last
November, we went around the room and we do what we always do. Everybody gives a personal goal and then a goal for the company. And so it was so strange, though, because as we went around, everybody said, I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. I don't have any big plans that are coming up for some reason. And then somebody said, you know, the only thing that comes to my mind for this year is be ready. And all of us just sat up in our chairs and went, that's it. Let's get ready. Let's be ready. And we didn't know what for. And it felt both wild and frightening and also really powerfully positive. Yeah. And so that's what we've been doing. We've actually been putting together this masterclass, a free webinar that'll be available from March 31st.
You can register now, and I've put the link in the little explanation.
Yep.
field.
And you can register at marthabeck.com.
It's going to be more stuff like this.
We're going to hit this hard. We're going to go into, let's create something absolutely beautifully let's make a butterfly out of this dissolution. Never say destruction, just say transformation. Yeah. Not destruction, transformation. We're all going through it together.
Yeah.
I've kept you too long because I don't want to say goodbye, because this is a time when we're all holding each other in our virtual hugs. And I don't want to leave, because there you are. There is so much love coming to us all through our computers right now that it's almost like we're gathered around the same campfire on a blistering cold day, warming our hands. Because this love and this physical separation combined with technological communication, that is the pathway of the transformation of consciousness. So even until we meet again next week, we will stay together.
Yeah.
We're sending out so much love and prayer and hope and faith for everyone here and for everyone else on this beautiful planet of ours. Mwah.
Mwah. See you next week, gang.